Hey everyone, just watching myself getting tangled. Hello everyone, hope you're doing okay. So I'm going to do a video on mixed media of a still life. So that's a still life I'm going to be doing there. So like I said, and then there is some examples around here of the way I've been working, which is again this mixed media. So all these materials that we've been using, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's go through. Now with the mixed media, yeah, you use whatever you've got. You need a bit of dry material and a bit of wet material, yeah, that's what we need. So and a few tools. So this is what we need. We are going to, I've got some sticks here, there's some skewer sticks, there's some bamboo sticks, I'm going to use some of them. Okay, then I've got a couple of tools like some brushes, I've got some bits of card in there as well, let's use them. Now with this mixed media approach, sometimes you don't use all the materials you put out, but they're all so good to have there, yeah. Soft pastels, I'm going to use them. And then I've got some white paint. This is emulsion. You can use acrylic or gouache if you want to as well. And then for the ink, I'm going to use some Brusho that I've mixed with water. So that's what you need, some kind of volume like that, yeah. So if you haven't got Brusho, you can use drawing ink. If you haven't got drawing ink, get yourself just a bit of water, and then you can mix acrylics in there or watercolours, you know, just keep mixing it till you get a nice colour in there. You can also use food colouring, that's a good one to use. And then this one here, what I've done here, if you can see, this is felt tip pen. So if you break a felt tip pen, you can see those white things in there, get one out like that. That's like the cartridge inside the felt tip pen, that if you pull it out and break it up and put it in some water, you get a good colour that way as well. There's a few things you can do. Brush, that's not a brush, sponge and sandpaper. I always forget what that is. So those are the tools I'm going to be using, yeah. So like I said, quite a bit there. So what I'm going to work on is some cartridge paper. This is quite heavy cartridge paper, and I'm going to stick it down because once you start working this way, it can start moving about a bit. So I'm trying to do it at an angle, because if I bring the camera too close, it gets all funny. It starts going up and down. And then if I do it too much, I don't want you to keep seeing the back of it, but I want you to see what I'm doing. So I've raised it up a little bit so you can see it, and now I'm just going to stick it down in the corners. Also what I'm going to use is I want an old rag, and then I've got some bubble wrap. I'm going to use some of that as well, yeah. Got a couple of sheets of that knocking about somewhere. There it is, stuff underneath there, might need that one. Right, so first thing, just trying to make sure that don't fall off halfway through. So let's see. Right, so first thing I'm going to do on here, yeah, is start to make a background. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to get my sandpaper, and then I'm going to do some texture on here. The sound might get a bit annoying, but just it won't be for long. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to get my sandpaper, and I'm just going to do some cross hatching on here like that. I'm not going to do it all over, I'm just going to do it in places. So start here, move a bit, and across. Now feel it with your hands. If you can feel it's a little bit rough, a little bit of texture, brilliant. Because if you do it too much, if you sort of like rub it too much, it can lose what we call the integrity of the paper, and then you'll get rips and stuff in it. So, see, okay, and because when we do this as well, as we rough up the paper and give it a bit of texture, if you're using charcoal, you can do the same thing, because what it does then, it helps the soft pastels, which we're going to use now, adhere to the paper a little bit as well. So now I've done that, I've roughed it up a little bit, I've decided that I'm going to use purple and yellow, so I'm going to get this, I'm going to get those in my soft pastels, and then what I'm going to do, let's try a bit. Well, it's just not a size one. I'm just going to put that on the background. And you should see some of that texture coming through from where we've done the marks, yeah. And then I'm going to do a bit of yellow. Now the thing, as you'll probably notice, and if you haven't done it before with soft pastels, they do get a little bit dusty, don't they? Yep. And then I'm going to get my rag, because I don't want the background to be too strong initially, and then I'm going to rub it in. And with that purple mixing with the yellow, it'll take it down a wee bit so it won't be so bright, and just take it back a wee bit. So I want it quite, like I say, a bit softer. And you can see these scratches coming through as well, where you know you went with the sandpaper as well. So we have a little bit more here. Get down a wee bit, yep. So that's the first start that I'm going to do. The second bit is I'm going to get a bit of bubble wrap, and I'm going to get my white paint, a little bit of emulsion, a bit of water, it's a bit dried off there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint. You don't have to use white, you can use whatever colour you like, but I like a little bit of white onto the bubble wrap. Then I'm going to get my ink with a little bit of pipette, and I'm just going to, you can use a brush as well, I'm just going to squirt some of that onto there. Yep. Mix it around a little bit. Get messy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it over and press it down. Just transfer some of that texture onto there, yep. So I'm just going to put it on. So it's all about just trying to create textures in the background, so you're not just working on, I'm going to put some more white on there, so you're not just working on a white background. Yeah. Like I say, you don't have to use white, you use any colour. Just like using the white, because it kind of takes the colour down a wee bit, doesn't it? And a little bit of pipette. And then I'm going to try it over here. I have to keep looking over there to check that the camera's not going fuzzy, and that you can kind of see what I'm doing. Yep. I'm just going to just keep moving that across. Now this way of working as well, it's you know, you just build it up. That's the idea, you just build it up, you know, the layers as you go along, and sometimes it can work really well. You know, you can make some really interesting marks. You go, oh, that's fab, I quite like that. And sometimes maybe not so, but well, it's all good collage paper in the end, isn't it? If it doesn't quite work out, that's my favourite word. Do a good collage. Right, so I've got started. Let me just upend that a little bit, see if you can see it a little bit better there. So I kind of started now getting some texture onto the background. Again, you go as far as you like with it. Yeah, and what I'm going to do now is take my pipette out of there for a sec. Put it over there. I'm going to get my ink. I'm going to get a stick. Let's get that one, and then what I'm going to do is start drawing now on top of here. So I'm just sticking my ink, and yeah, this way, like I said, of working is you can't rub it out. So the marks you make, you have to live with them, and the more you do, the more you get used to it, and it's just making some of it. If it drips and stuff, absolutely fine. I'm not going to be fussed about that. And then what you're trying to do here is use your stick, you know, on the flat, so you move it a bit. I'll go over here so you can see, you know, so you can do it that way. Bring some of that vase down there. So, the more you move about with your stick, you see, the more you get some really interesting marks. Nice drip there, that's fine. You have to say that to me because it just drips. No, it's fine because it's all adds to it, doesn't it? Because to me, all these kind of random marks are what gives it that movement as well to it. Bring it across there. So it's nice having that texture underneath it as well, of that vase coming through there. And then let's put some of these flowers in. And the great thing about drawing flowers is that you can be a little bit freer with it, can't you? You don't have to be so precise with those marks. Just get a little bit in. Now, once you start off, if it does get a bit wet, your paper, before you just have to let it dry off because you don't want to get holes in it. Okay. Let's just do that a little bit. Over there, yep. And then I've got some yellow ink mixed up as well. So what I'm going to do there, got my yellow ink, I'm just going to get my brush out. Bring some of this forward with that yellow there. Right, and then I'm going to use a bit of this to put some of those little buttercups in up here. Can you see them? Yep, just randomly put them in. So the idea is just keep building up those layers. And if you work a bit flat, it might not run so much, yeah, but that's alright. Like I say, it never bothers me. Look at that bit of the brush falling off there. Yep. So I'm just dabbing that around there as well. I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of flicking around, because then what I'm going to do, I mean the flicking can work, like I say, in some ways and maybe not in the other, but I'm going to just use my sponge to kind of add another bit of texture onto it as well. I'll use some of that sponge there. Yep. Some of those are running a little bit more than what I would like to, but it's because I've kept it up a wee bit because of obviously so you can see it, yeah, but you can see how it's coming on. And so then I'm going to get back to my white paint. I'm going to dab some of that into that yellow, give it like those daisy feel. Can you see that? Yeah. And so then I'm going to put a little bit of that white on here. Bring it forward here as well. So I'm just kind of keep playing with it, and I'm just going to keep building it up, putting layers on, and just try and I'm going to be a bit even more messy now, a little bit more like instinctive with it. Just put it on and see where it goes. Darken some of that off, put some of that dark around there. Let's see if I can use my brush just to tell you what I'm going to use. This is what I mean, sometimes if you just have tools out, then you can kind of think, oh I won't mind doing that. I'm going to try and use my little bit of that card to get some of these marks in there. Just doing some little dab ones there. So you get a whole kind of different texture, don't you, using that one, and you could use this to kind of dab across that. What I'm going to do is, see, I get really messy. I'm going to put some of that white on there, get a little bit of that card, mix it in like that. see what I can get some edges. Texture there. Yep. So what I've been doing is building up those layers. Get started off and then just see. Now I'll lift it up a wee bit more so you can kind of see. It might overrun there. Yeah. So again, it's just been building up. I start with the background. It's great to have that background coming through, isn't it? And if I move it a little bit closer, can you see it onto that vase as well? Yeah. Anyway, so again, I've kept it. I love them. Can do them all day. These love them to do, because it's about just taking each step as it comes and just trying it. And like I say, if you've got all the materials out there, then you can just keep like, oh yeah, a little bit of stick, a little bit of that, and you can just keep building it up. And so I might try another one where I'm using different colours. I use the purple and yellow because of the yellow butterflies, and I thought, well, butterflies, what are they? Buttercups. I can use them as well. Okay, do you know what? Quite like that. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed doing it, and I hope to see you soon. So thanks very much.